This construction is completely unauthorized. We are fining you $500 a day until this is resolved.
Blue lights bounced off the water like cold coins while I stood on my dock in flip-flops, breath fogging in the midnight air that smelled like wet cedar and gasoline. A yellow notice flapped against my boat cleat, stapled through the rope. Then I saw them. Clear sleeves, clipped in stacks, taped to my railing from bow to shore. Pages and pages fluttering like white fish. 63 sheets of violations, noise, paint color, unauthorized cleat size. Even a write-up for wind chimes. Karen from the HOA stood on the path, arms crossed, perfume fighting the bite of asphalt. She said at 12:03 a.m., "You're in breach of everything." I laughed because my coffee had burned my tongue at 9:00 p.m., and now the cold air finished the job. I asked if we could talk in daylight. She said, "We just did." This is the part where I say it plain. HOA posted 63 pages of violations. On my dock, had no idea I am their engineer. That's the fight. On May 3rd, 2024, our HOA hired a consulting civil engineer to certify the seawall and the shared dock upgrades for county approval. That engineer is me. I kept it quiet to avoid drama. Conflict rules allow it if I disclose to the board, which I did. They never read the packet. Now I had a novel of fines rubber banded to my cleat, and a threat of $180 per day starting at sunrise. My neighbors peeked from windows. Porch lights blinked like fireflies, then went dark. Karen's phone camera stayed up, red light winking. I tried to appeal. I brought donuts and a calm voice to the clubhouse at 8:15 a.m. The board sat behind a folding table, sipping strong coffee from a thermos that smelled like a truck stop. I pointed out the obvious. The cleat they hated was in the original plan they approved. The paint color called driftwood gray matched the HOA's own sample, number 27. When I spoke, they looked at the ceiling tiles. Karen tapped her pen like a metronome. She said, "The rules are the rules." I said, "Show me the section." She said, "We interpret." A neighbor I'd helped move a couch stared at his shoes. Another slid his violation letter back across the table, like it was radioactive. I left with my stomach tight and my jaw tired. The wind off the bay felt colder than last night. I drew a line. No yelling, no petty stuff. Only proper channels. I went home, set the thermostat to 68, and opened my laptop. I lined up photos, emails, and call logs in a binder. Receipts montage, right? Then I pulled the public records from the county portal and ordered the HOA's maintenance file. 2 days later, the courier knocked. The box hit my table with a thud. The file landed with 63 pages. I read every line. The seawall inspection from June 2022 had a red flag on scouring near the storm drains. The board never followed up. Worse, the shared dock permit required a certified engineer's sign-off after any structural changes. Timeline item 1, April 5 at 4:27 a.m., false trespass call. Karen had reported a stranger on the dock. It was the contractor with the county badge. Patterns of false reports can be prosecuted. I printed that sentence in bold, slid it into the binder, and slept like a stone. The payoff came at the next open meeting. I wore a clean polo and brought my stamped plans in a blue tube. Neighbors filled every metal chair. Someone whispered, "He's the guy with the wind chimes." Karen started with a speech about standards, waving a laser pointer that jittered on the wall. When she said, "My dock committee has maintained compliance since 2021, I raised my hand. She tried to steamroll. I stood. "Ma'am, you hired a consulting engineer on May 3rd, 2024. That's me." I pulled out the stamped sheets like a magician pulling scarves. "Here is the approved cleat spec, the paint palette, and the storm drain note you ignored. If you enforce rules, you must also meet permits." The room went quiet. Then a neighbor coughed. I slid the binder forward and the blue tube rolled like a drum. The county inspector I'd invited, public meeting, posted agenda, stepped up, badge clipped to his pocket. He said, "We have concerns about the HOA dock modifications completed without final certification." Cameras came out. Karen's smile packed its bags and left. Laughter rippled when the inspector read the false trespass notes. The contractor in question waved from the back. A teenager whispered into his phone, "Dude, it's going viral." Another neighbor whispered. She had no idea he was the engineer. The comments started in real life. "Nice receipts, chief. Get him with the binder," and then moved online. Someone uploaded the clip at 7:42 p.m. By 10:10 p.m., we had 8,000 views, 53 comments, and one parody account called the Doc Doc. Karen tried to gavel the noise. The gavel head popped off and skittered under a chair. A woman in a floral dress laughed so hard she snorted, and the whole room let go with her. I didn't gloat. I stood with my hands in my pockets and let the evidence do the talking. The authority flip came fast. The inspector issued a notice to cure to the board for unapproved structural changes and failure to close out permits. The police officer at the door, there for crowd control, took a supplemental statement on the April 5th call and handed Karen a pamphlet about misuse of emergency lines. He said it calm, like reading a recipe. The board's attorney, who had been scrolling his phone, cleared his throat and advised an immediate suspension of all fines related to dock accessories and paint. The board voted 5-0. Fines rescinded. Violations withdrawn. They scheduled a special session to address the seawall repairs with me, on contract, under county oversight, paid from the reserve fund as required. I didn't spike a football. I initialed the correction plan and thanked the officer for his time. Aftermath felt like a clean breeze. The next morning, kids fished off the dock without anyone measuring their bobbers. My neighbor finally brought over the banana bread she'd promised since Christmas. We sat on the steps with paper plates, watching pelicans skim the surface. The board posted a sober update at 9:00 a.m., owning the errors, announcing mandatory training, and accepting my stamped schedule. Karen resigned as dock chair and took a 90-day break from enforcement. The seawall work began on June 10th at 7:15 a.m., with cones, permits, and coffee that didn't taste like truck tires. I put my wind chimes back. When the breeze moved them, the sound was small and bright, like a reset. I walked the planks, ran a hand along the rail, and waved at the contractor like an old teammate. Please follow for more HOA showdowns like this. Do you think she got what she deserves? Comment below.